Good morning, everybody. My name is Duane, and I'm the founder and host of Headspace and Timing, a blog, podcast, and series of books that are designed to change the way that we think and talk about veteran mental health. I'd like to give you a short preview of episode 141 of the Headspace and Timing podcast. The episode's going to be released tomorrow, Thursday, but I have a conversation with clinical mental health professional of nearly 40 years, retired Army Colonel Kathy Platoni. She served as an Army Psychologist for over 3 decades and continues this work in her post-military life. She and I talk about healing from trauma of all kinds and continuing to help our service members, veterans, and their families find a place of healing and peace. Here's a short preview of the full conversation. To start off with, we talk about the importance of treating symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder in order to live the life that we desire and deserve.
There are so many ways to begin the healing process. Not that there's necessarily a cure for PTSD, but learning how to navigate life and to not be afraid to confront your trauma when the time is right, and to do it in a safe and protected environment can allow people to lead wonderful lives, to rise to the challenge, and to grow from the tragedies that have befallen them.
Now, shortly before Dr. Platoni and I talked over the summer, her community experienced a series of devastating tornadoes. In this clip, she talks about how natural disasters can complicate and exacerbate traumatic stress reaction.
With a tornado, a hurricane, flood, anything like that, the peaceful sanctuary that you call home is gone. So you have no place to return to. Most of us coming back from the combat theater, not all, there's thousands and thousands of homeless veterans, have a place to lay their head at night. And once that's gone, your whole firm foundation has been ripped out from under you. So that in and of itself is traumatizing.
We also talked about needing to provide ongoing support for those who have experienced trauma and loss, not just support immediately after an event.
It's like a funeral. Once the funeral's over and the burial has come to a conclusion, everybody runs home and they forget about the survivors of the person who's been lost. And it doesn't stop at the end of the funeral. It doesn't stop at the end of the day or the week or the month. It's the hardships continue for the long term.
Now, Dr. Platoni is a retired field grade officer, a full colonel, and yet she was very clear that leaving the military after 3 decades was very challenging for her.
It was a crushing blow. I felt like I had died. I felt like my entire life had been pulled out from under me. Most of my closest relationships are my Army buddies. Fortunately, and I didn't know about this at the time, the Ohio Military Reserve, which is the unpaid branch of the Ohio National Guard, recruited me, and it really has brought me back to life. Another great blessing.
Now, Dr. Platoni, as she mentioned, is currently a member of the Ohio Military Reserve. She and I talked about the impact of disaster relief and the work that a lot of National Guards reserves and military reserves do, and responding to the aftermath to the service and the response that service members have to the aftermath.
When they come back from a mission like that, the sense of being powerless to prevent so much human suffering it really takes a toll. And add to that the guilt that many of us were unaffected as far as our homes and our places of work were concerned. And you're dealing with people who have lost their jobs, they've lost their vehicles, they've lost all of their personal, sentimental possessions, their homes, they've lost everything. You feel like you cannot do enough to stop the magnitude of this suffering.
And finally, she and I talked about the need for military service members to serve while they're in and even after they've gotten out.
This was about 47 or 48 years ago. And this is what makes military people tick. I received an embroidered cloth and said on it, "Be ashamed to die until you have done something for humanity." And I think that's a common thread that runs through military personnel. When you're out of the military, what else are you going to do that rises to that level of satisfaction and reward or value, meaning, and purpose?
Dr. Platoni and I talk a lot more on the longer conversation. We discuss the difference between military and non-military PTSD, belongingness and post-military life, and much more. Check out the show notes and the full episode when it's released. Go to veteranmentalhealth.com/HST141, and we'll have a link in the comments below. Thank you for taking the time to check out this video. Really appreciate you and your interest in understanding more about veteran mental health. If you want to find out more, you can access the 2 books that the Headspace and Timing blog has released. You can find them at veteranmentalhealth.com/Amazon. And I ask that if you're interested in following the podcast, please go to veteranmentalhealth.com/podcast. You will see a list of podcast players that you can choose from. Choose the one that you use most regularly that you'd like. Hit subscribe like here on the iTunes Apple Podcasts app, and you will be subscribed. That way you will get all of the shows delivered whenever they're released. And if you want to provide feedback, we ask for an honest rating or review, because both subscriptions and the reviews really help others find this show. Thank you once again for joining me to talk about veteran mental health, and we look forward to talking to you again next week.